video, I will tell you about the capability approach, which was developed by Amartya Sen. It is focused on differences in capabilities between people, which are reasons for the differences in level of well-being. Capability is a possibility to choose and to achieve something which helps you to reach well-being. In this sense, capability is a freedom to choose, procedural aspect of freedom, and freedom to achieve what you have chosen, opportunity aspect of freedom. But what do you choose? According to Sen, we choose between diverse functionings. Functionings are states and activities, beings and doings that constitutes person's being in a positive or negative sense. This may include being healthy or being ill, being treated equally or unfairly, having a flat to live in or being homeless, having children or not, being educated or illiterate, being part of supportive social network or criminal network, having a good job or being employed, traveling. So putting it simple, you may consider travel as an important part of your well-being. It is a capability which informs whether you are able to achieve it or not. Sometimes you may want to achieve a set of two or more functioning. For instance, if you are a single parent, you may wish to provide for your family and to hold a job and not to lose your health, which is sometimes very difficult. To now bring capabilities and functionings together, we can say that capabilities are a person's real freedoms or opportunities to achieve functionings. Why, for Sam, is the freedom to choose so important for achieving well-being? It is not enough to ask if somebody is satisfied or happy with what he/she does have. For Sam, no. He realized that many people don't have now that they could lead a different life. Many women especially don't realize that they could study, work, not marry as a child, not be beaten by their husband, or have equal payment or rights as men. So there are still women who, even if forced by their husbands to work as prostitutes, are just happy, if not beaten. Could we call this happiness? The problem can be expressed with an old parallel. Is it better to be a happy pig or unhappy Socrates? No wonder then that it was Amartya Sen who linked the interests of economists to discrimination of women in the economy, and no wonder that feminist economists appreciate him. One of the first opening papers in feminist economics was written by him and about his ideas. It was he who spoke about missed women. It is millions of women who are missed in the whole globe. Why? For instance, in China and India, many girls are killed before they were born or immediately after, because their parents prefer to have boys. In many countries, girls don't receive the same treatment as boys, are nurtured and educated less, and consequently live shorter lives. Less education often means lower income. Moreover, many girls are still forced to marry very early as children and risk their health and life when they give birth while so young. So being a woman often means having less capability, not only to achieve what you want, but to choose. Okay. When these capabilities built from functionings are limited, your chances of achieving well-being will be limited as well. So the reason for differences in well-being are caused not so much by the differences in monetary income as in capabilities, which are substantial freedoms, but in instrumental freedoms. Even if material income and material resources may facilitate the possibility of your achieving well-being, it is functionings, still there are some limiting factors called by Sen conversion factors. Let's imagine that you have a bike which permits you to go to work and maintain a job. Important functioning. There are personal conversion factors which may limit the possibility of you achieving this functioning. So if you don't have legs or you have problems with equilibrium, the bike won't help you. Moreover, we can distinguish social conversion factors, which can limit your possibility to use a car for social cultural reasons. There are some cultures in which women can't use a bike or even a car. Sometimes a woman's fashion may limit it, as was the case for Marie Curie, who after her marriage with Pierre Curie went for a honeymoon on their bike. Marie had to shorten her skirt to be able to do it, which in 19th century was a very daring thing. There are also environmental conversion factors. There could be, for instance, few bike lanes or streets safe for bike. During my stay as visiting professor in Chicago, I experienced this limitation. I was accustomed to biking every day in Munich, where I had been living for a long time. I couldn't do it anymore in Chicago because of the lack of safe bike lanes on streets in Chicago City. Similarly, I couldn't use my bike for outdoor activity functioning. In Munich, I could go out of the city easily on my bike. Not so in Chicago. One time, after riding relatively easily for 50 miles, my path suddenly ended, finishing at the motorway where you can't use a bike. In order to continue, I was forced to take my bike under my arm and cross the river, walking on the narrow train track. This was a risky adventure, especially when the train would come on this track, meaning there was no achievement of a safe outdoor activity. Environmental conversion factors may play a role when it comes to the possibility of getting a flat. If you live, for instance, in Florida, you may construct a house at a low cost, but to maintain the house, you have to spend a lot on air conditioning. The same is true when you live in Siberia, where you have to invest a lot of money to construct highly insulated walls and then heat the flat in winter. In Italy, expenses are incurred as you are supposed to invest in an anti-earthquake technologies. So you see the differences in personal, social, and environmental factors limit our possibility to use our resources. Last but not least, there are also instrumental freedoms which facilitate the achievement of substantial freedoms. For instance, if one country is rich, people have much greater opportunity to achieve their freedoms. However, for some, GDP per capita is not a good measure, even of such material freedom, and the reason is not only that GDP doesn't contain info about distribution of income. This is because, in addition to such material freedom, there are also 4 other freedoms: political, social, transparency, and security freedom, which means GDP by itself doesn't really inform us about all components of material freedom. See summary framework. Political freedom includes the freedom to vote, to participate in decision-making processes, fair elections, ability to criticize the government, an uncensored press, and ability to run for office. Secondly, economic facilities wants access to financing or credit and access to global markets, open labor market, access to products markets, saving opportunities, stable business ethics, freedom for women to seek employment outside the home. Social opportunities, education, healthcare, gender equity, women's well-being, childcare, and social services, anything that ensures all citizens can become productive members of society. Transparency guarantees having open and transparent dealings in business, governments, and any transactions between citizens. In this sense, absence of corruption, mechanisms for seeking justice, guarantees of disclosures, lucidity, and speed of judicial decisions, access to police protection. Protective security, protective safety net that ensures one's safety, like unemployment insurance or relief support, emergency facilities, shelters, subsidy for victims of famine and disaster, arrangements for protection of extreme deprivation. So, summarizing, the capability concept introduced by the Amartya Sen provides a new understanding of well-being. The traditional economic way of counting it by GDP per capita is not sufficient. It does not tell us if we are able, we have a capability to choose and achieve our desirable functioning, which enlarges our subjective well-being, which can be understood as freedom. Material resources may be important to achieve freedom, but they are limited by so-called conventional factors, private, social, and environmental. Moreover, there are other instrumental freedoms which can harm us in the achievement of our substantial freedom: political, economic, social, transparency, and security. Capability approach is a normative theory. It is not a theory that will explain poverty, inequality, or well-being, but rather a theory that helps us to conceptualize these notions. Okay. Many policymakers and scholars apply it in a wide range of fields, most prominently in development studies and policymaking, welfare economics, social policy, and social and political philosophy.